There is something about Keanu Reeves that touches the deepest part of my heart. When I first learned about his life, I did not just see a famous actor. I saw a man who carried pain with grace and turned suffering into kindness. In a world where fame often changes people, Keanu remained gentle. He gave up his seat on subways. He talked to strangers like old friends. He donated millions without telling anyone.
It's
And when
okay.
I
I'm
discovered the
here.
truth about his
I know.
childhood,
Thank you.
about the mother
Always.
who
I love you.
raised him
Love you.
alone, about the secrets she carried for decades, I understood why he became the man he is today. His story is not just about Hollywood success. It is about a woman who sacrificed everything for her son. It is about love that protects even when it hurts. It is about the beautiful and heartbreaking truth that shaped one of the kindest souls in the world. This is the story of Patricia Taylor and the secret she finally revealed.
It's okay.
The rain had
I'm
stopped
here.
falling,
I
but the
know.
air
Thank
still
you.
held its
Always.
memory.
I love you. Love you.
Somewhere in a small apartment in Los Angeles, the evening light came through a window in pale golden strips, touching the worn carpet and the edges of old furniture. There was a stillness in that room, the kind that comes after long hours of waiting for something that never arrives. A woman stood near the glass, her reflection faint against the darkening sky. Her breath was slow, almost hesitant, as if she was afraid that breathing too deeply might break something fragile inside her chest. She did not move for a long time. She simply watched the world outside, where puddles reflected the lights of passing cars and the distant sound of children playing echoed through the empty street. Patricia Taylor was not a woman who cried easily. She had learned to hold her tears the way some people hold their breath underwater, waiting for the moment when it was safe to come up for air. But tonight was different. Tonight, she clutched an unopened letter in her hands, the paper soft from being held too long, the return address written in handwriting she would recognize anywhere. It came from Hawaii. It came from a man who had once promised her the world and then disappeared like morning fog. She had not opened it yet. She was not sure she ever would. Outside, her 7-year-old son Keanu played alone in the small courtyard. He held a stick in his hand, swinging it like a sword, fighting invisible enemies with the fierce imagination of a child who had learned to create his own adventures. Patricia watched him through the glass, and her heart ached with a love so deep it frightened her. He was everything to her. He was the reason she woke up every morning and worked until her hands were sore. He was the reason she moved from city to city, from Sydney to New York to Toronto, always searching for something she could not name. She told herself she was looking for better opportunities. But deep down, she knew the truth. She was running. Keanu did not know about the letter. He did not know about the man who had written it. Every time he asked about his father, Patricia gave him the same gentle answer. She would kneel down, look into his beautiful dark eyes, and say, "He loved you, baby, he just could not stay." It was a half-truth wrapped in kindness. The full truth was something she had buried so deep that sometimes she almost forgot it herself. Almost. Life as a single mother was not easy. Patricia worked as a costume designer in the film industry, spending long hours in studios filled with famous faces who never noticed her. She stitched and sewed and measured and altered, and at the end of each exhausting day, she came home to a small apartment where her son waited with drawings he had made and stories he wanted to tell. She listened to every word. She praised every picture. She made him feel like the most important person in the world, because to her he was. But there were nights when Keanu heard something he was not supposed to hear. He would lie in his small bed, pretending to sleep, and through the thin walls he could hear his mother crying. Soft, muffled sobs that she tried to hide with a pillow. He never said anything about it. He never asked why. Instead, he simply became quieter, more observant, learning to read the sadness in people's eyes without needing words to explain it. It was a skill that would stay with him for the rest of his life. One evening, while Patricia was working late at a studio, young Keanu found himself alone in the apartment. He had finished his homework and grown bored with his toys. Curiosity, that powerful force that lives in every child, led him to his mother's bedroom. He did not know what he was looking for. Perhaps he was simply searching for a piece of her, something that would help him understand the woman who loved him so completely yet seemed to carry an invisible weight on her shoulders. He found it under her bed, a small wooden box, dusty and forgotten, pushed into the darkest corner where no one would think to look. His small hands trembled as he pulled it out and lifted the lid. Inside were photographs of a man he did not recognize. The man had dark hair and a smile that looked charming but somehow cold. There was a newspaper clipping from a Hawaiian paper, the headline too long for him to fully understand. And at the bottom there was a handwritten letter, the paper yellowed with age. Keanu picked up the letter and began to read the first line. "Patricia, I am sorry for what I am about to tell you about who I really am." His heart beat faster. Who was this man? What was he sorry for? What secret was hidden in these words? But before he could read another line, he heard the front door open. Footsteps approached, and then his mother appeared in the doorway, her face frozen in an expression he had never seen before. It was fear. She crossed the room in 3 quick steps and snatched the box from his hands. Her voice was sharp, almost desperate. "Never look at this again," she said. "Promise me, Keanu, promise me." He had never heard her speak like that. He had never seen her eyes so wide, so filled with something close to terror. He nodded quickly, confused and frightened. "I promise," he whispered. That night after Keanu had fallen asleep, Patricia sat alone in the kitchen. The wooden box rested on the table before her. One by one, she took out the photographs, the newspaper clipping, the letters, and she burned them over the sink. She watched the flames consume the evidence of a past she wanted to forget. The smoke rose and disappeared, carrying secrets into the darkness. But when she reached the last photograph, her hand stopped. It was a picture of the man holding baby Keanu, taken just days after his birth. She could not burn it. She could not destroy this last piece of a story that was also her son's story. She hid the photograph in a new place, somewhere Keanu would never find it. And as she stood alone in the silent kitchen, she whispered words that only the shadows could hear. "He can never know what his father did. It would destroy him." But secrets have a way of finding the light. And this secret, buried so deep for so long, would one day rise to the surface and change everything Keanu thought he knew about his mother, his father, and himself. The morning light felt different somehow, colder than usual, as if the sun itself was hesitating before rising fully over the city of Toronto. Keanu sat at the edge of his bed, 16 years old now, staring at the wall where posters of musicians and actors covered the faded paint. There was a restlessness inside him that he could not name, a feeling like standing at the edge of a cliff without knowing what waited below. His fingers tapped against his knee in a nervous rhythm. Somewhere in the apartment, he could hear his mother preparing breakfast, the familiar sounds of cups clinking and water running. But today, those sounds did not comfort him. Today, everything felt like a question waiting to be answered. 9 years had passed since that night when Patricia had taken the box from his hands. 9 years of silence. 9 years of watching his mother carry something heavy that she refused to share. Keanu had kept his promise. He had never searched for the box again. But the memory of that letter, those first words he had read before being interrupted, had stayed with him like a splinter buried beneath the skin. "Patricia, I am sorry for what I am about to tell you about who I really am." Who was his father really? What had he done? And why was his mother so afraid of Keanu discovering the truth? Teenage years are difficult for everyone, but for Keanu, they felt like walking through fog. He had been expelled from several schools, not because he was cruel or violent, but because he could not fit into the shapes that others expected him to fill. He was too quiet for some, too intense for others. He asked questions that teachers did not want to answer. He stared out windows when he should have been taking notes. The other students did not know what to make of him, this boy who seemed to carry the weight of something ancient in his young eyes. Patricia worried constantly. She watched her son pull away from her and she did not know how to reach him. She tried everything. She cooked his favorite meals. She asked about his day. She left small notes of encouragement on his pillow. But Keanu had built walls around his heart, and those walls grew higher with each passing year. He loved his mother deeply. That would never change. But he also resented her silence. He resented the secrets that hung between them like invisible curtains, separating them even when they sat in the same room. It was during this time that Keanu discovered acting. In drama class, something awakened inside him. When he stepped onto the stage and became someone else, the restlessness quieted. The questions faded. For a few precious moments, he was not the fatherless boy with too many thoughts. He was a character with a clear purpose, a story with a beginning and an end. Acting became his escape, his medicine, his way of surviving a world that often felt too confusing to bear. But the questions never truly disappeared. They simply waited, patient and persistent, until Keanu was ready to seek the answers himself. That moment came on a cold November evening when Patricia was working late at a theater production. Keanu sat alone in the apartment, and for the first time in 9 years, he made a decision. He would find his father. He would uncover the truth that his mother had hidden for so long. He started with what little he knew. His father had lived in Hawaii. His father had left before Keanu was old enough to remember him. His father had written letters that Patricia had burned. Armed with these fragments, Keanu began his search. He visited the local library and looked through old phone directories. He wrote letters to addresses he found, not knowing if they would reach anyone who remembered the man in the photographs. Weeks passed, most of his letters returned unopened, others simply vanished into silence. Keanu began to lose hope. Perhaps his father had disappeared completely. Perhaps there was no one left who knew him. But then, on a snowy December afternoon, a response arrived. The envelope was thin, the handwriting unfamiliar. Keanu opened it with trembling fingers and found a single page inside. It was from a woman named Margaret, his father's sister, an aunt he had never known existed. Her words were careful, measured, as if she was weighing each sentence before committing it to paper. "Dear Keanu," she wrote, "I was surprised to receive your letter. I thought about not responding, but something told me you deserve to know at least a small piece of the truth. Your father was not a bad man, he was a broken one. Before you were born, something happened, something your mother witnessed. She did not just leave him, she fled from him, and she was right to do so. But there is more to the story than she is telling you. If you want to understand, ask her about the night of September 14th, 1966. That night changed everything." Keanu read the letter 3 times. Each time, new questions bloomed in his mind. What had happened on that night? What had his mother witnessed? Why had she fled? He folded the letter carefully and placed it in his pocket. That evening, when Patricia came home, tired and smelling of fabric and stage dust, Keanu confronted her. He showed her the letter. He watched her face change as she read it. First confusion, then recognition, then something that looked almost like grief. When she finished reading, she did not speak. She simply stood there, frozen, as if the words had turned her to stone. Keanu waited. Minutes passed. Finally, Patricia walked to her bedroom and closed the door. For 3 days, she barely spoke. She went to work. She came home. She prepared meals in silence. Keanu felt guilt mixing with his frustration. He had not meant to hurt her. He had only wanted to understand. But his questions had opened a wound that had never fully healed. On the 4th day, Patricia called him to the kitchen table. Her eyes were red, her voice hoarse. She looked older somehow, as if the past 3 days had aged her by years. She took Keanu's hands in hers and spoke softly. "I was going to take this to my grave," she said, "but you deserve a piece of the truth, not all of it, not yet. You are not ready for all of it, but I will tell you what I can." She told him that his father had been involved with dangerous people. She told him that on the night she fled, she was already pregnant with Keanu. She told him that she had witnessed something that could have put them both in danger if she had stayed. She told him that every move, every new city, every uprooted life had been to protect him. "I gave you a childhood without fear," she said, "because I carried all the fear for you." Keanu listened, his heart aching. But one question still burned inside him. He asked it before he could stop himself. "Is my father still alive?" Patricia hesitated. The silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Finally, she whispered words that sent chills down his spine. "That is not the question you should be asking. The question is, would you still love me if you knew the choice I made to keep you safe?" There are moments in life when time seems to slow down, when the air becomes thick and every breath feels like a conscious decision. Keanu stood at the window of his Hollywood home, watching the city lights flicker in the distance like scattered stars fallen to earth. He was no longer the confused teenager searching for answers. He was a man now, famous beyond anything he had ever imagined, recognized on streets around the world. The Matrix had changed everything. Suddenly, everyone knew his name. Everyone wanted to shake his hand. Everyone thought they understood who Keanu Reeves was. But standing alone in that quiet room, he felt the same emptiness he had carried since childhood. Success had not filled the hollow spaces inside him. Fame had not answered the questions that still whispered in the dark corners of his heart. It had been years since that conversation with his mother in the Toronto kitchen. Years since she had spoken those haunting words about the choice she had made. Keanu had tried to let it go. He had buried himself in work, in characters, in stories that belonged to other people. But the mystery of his father remained like a locked door in his mind, always present, always waiting. And now, as he approached his mid-30s, something told him that the door was about to open. The phone call came on a Tuesday evening. Keanu was reviewing scripts when his assistant handed him the receiver with an unusual expression. "It is your mother," she said. "She sounds different." Keanu pressed the phone to his ear and heard Patricia's voice, thin and fragile in a way he had never heard before. "I need you to come home," she said. "There is something I have to tell you. And Keanu, please do not wait. I do not know how much time I have left." The words struck him like a physical blow. He flew to her home the next morning, his heart racing with fear and confusion. When he arrived, he found Patricia sitting in her living room, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm California sun streaming through the windows. She looked smaller somehow, as if life itself was slowly retreating from her body. A serious illness, the doctors had said. Treatment was possible, but nothing was certain. Time had become a precious and unpredictable gift. Patricia smiled when she saw her son. It was a sad smile, heavy with decades of unspoken words. She patted the seat beside her, and Keanu sat down, taking her frail hand in his. "I have been keeping something from you," she began. "For almost 40 years, I have carried a secret that I thought would protect you. But now, facing what I am facing, I realize that secrets do not protect. They only delay the pain, and I cannot leave this world without telling you everything." Keanu felt his chest tighten. He had waited so long for this moment. Now that it was here, part of him wanted to run away, but he stayed. He listened, and what his mother told him changed everything he thought he knew about his life. Patricia spoke about the night of September 14th, 1966. She described how she had discovered his father's deep involvement with dangerous people, criminals who operated in the shadows of society. But that was not the worst of it. That night, she had found a letter his father had written, a letter that revealed his plan to disappear and abandon them both. He was going to leave before Keanu was even born. He was going to vanish without a word, leaving Patricia alone and pregnant with nothing but broken promises. "When I read that letter," Patricia said, "something inside me shattered, but it also gave me clarity. I realized I had two choices. I could stay and raise you in an environment of crime and instability, or I could flee with nothing but hope and give you a chance at a different life. I chose the harder path, poverty, struggle, single motherhood, but I chose it for you." Keanu's eyes burned with tears he refused to shed. He had always known his mother had sacrificed for him, but hearing the details, understanding the impossible choice she had faced, broke something open inside his heart. He squeezed her hand tighter. "But there is more," Patricia continued, her voice trembling. "Something I have never told you. Something that has haunted me every single day." She took a deep breath and revealed the secret she had guarded most closely. When Keanu was 12 years old, his father had reached out. He had found them somehow. He had written to Patricia, begging for a chance to reconnect with his son. And Patricia had made the agonizing decision to refuse. She had written back, telling him to stay away forever. She had believed with every fiber of her being that his influence would destroy the gentle soul she was raising. "I played God with your relationship," she whispered. "I decided you would be better without him, and I have hated myself for it every single day since." Keanu could not speak. The revelation hit him like a wave, drowning him in emotions he could not name. His father had wanted to know him. His father had tried, and his mother had kept them apart. But Patricia was not finished. There was one more truth, the heaviest of all. "Your father died 3 years ago," she said, her voice breaking. "He died still hoping to meet you. And before he passed, he left behind letters, dozens of them. Letters he wrote to you but never sent. I have kept them hidden all this time, too afraid and too ashamed to show them to you." She reached beneath the blanket and pulled out a weathered shoebox. Her hands shook as she held it out to him. "Your father loved you," she said through tears. "He was flawed. He was broken. And yes, sometimes he was dangerous. But he loved you. And I kept that love from you because I thought I knew better." Keanu stared at the box. Inside were the words of a man he had never known, a father who had existed only in questions and shadows. His mother's confession echoed in his mind. She had lied to him. She had kept his father away. She had hidden these letters while he spent years wondering and searching. "Can you ever forgive me?" Patricia asked, her voice barely a whisper. Keanu took the box. He looked at his mother, at her tear-streaked face, at the fear and hope and love that shone in her tired eyes. And then, without saying a single word, he stood up and walked out the door. The days that followed were the longest of Patricia's life. She waited by the phone. She checked the door constantly, but Keanu did not call. Keanu did not visit. 2 weeks of complete silence passed, and with each day, Patricia became more certain that she had lost her son forever. The truth she had hidden to protect him had become the truth that destroyed everything. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Patricia's living room, painting golden rectangles on the floor that slowly shifted with the passing hours. She sat in her chair by the window, the same place she had occupied for 14 days, watching and waiting for something she feared would never come. The illness had weakened her body, but it was the silence from her son that had truly broken her spirit. Food sat untouched on the table beside her. Sleep came only in brief, restless fragments. She replayed their last conversation over and over in her mind, searching for different words she could have used, gentler ways she could have revealed the truth. But the past cannot be rewritten. It can only be understood. On the 15th day, Patricia had nearly given up hope. The evening light was fading, and she was preparing to close the curtains when she heard something that made her heart stop. A knock at the door. Soft at first, almost hesitant, then stronger. She tried to stand, but her legs would not cooperate. The knock came again, and then a voice she would recognize anywhere. "Mom, it is me. Please open the door." Somehow she found the strength to cross the room. Her trembling hands turned the lock, and the door swung open to reveal her son standing on the porch. Keanu looked tired, as if he had not slept well in weeks. His eyes were red. His clothes were wrinkled, but he was there. He had come back. In his hands, he carried the weathered shoebox she had given him. But he also held something else, a thick envelope that Patricia did not recognize. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was heavy with everything that had happened, everything that had been said, everything that still needed to be understood. "Can I come in?" Keanu asked quietly. Patricia stepped aside, unable to find her voice. Keanu walked past her and sat down on the couch where she had told him the truth 2 weeks ago. He placed the shoebox on the coffee table and looked at his mother with an expression she could not read. Was it anger? Was it sadness? Was it something else entirely? She did not know. She was afraid to hope. "I read every letter," Keanu said finally, "every single one that Dad wrote. You were right about some things. He was flawed. He was broken. Some of the things he wrote scared me. I could see the darkness you were trying to protect me from. I could understand why you were afraid." Patricia lowered herself into the chair across from him, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. "But you know what else I found?" Keanu continued. He reached into the shoebox and pulled out a single letter, its paper more worn than the others, as if it had been read many times. "This is the last letter he wrote before he died. I want to read it to you." Patricia's hands flew to her mouth. Tears she had been holding back for 15 days finally broke free and streamed down her cheeks. Keanu unfolded the letter carefully and began to read aloud. "My dearest son," he read, "I have written to you so many times, never knowing if these words would reach you. Your mother made a choice to keep you from me, and for years I hated her for it. I was angry, I was bitter, and yes, I wanted revenge, but time has a way of making you see clearly. Keanu, your mother did not steal you from me. She saved you from me. I was not the man you deserved. I was not the father you needed. She gave you the childhood I could never provide. One of safety, love, and possibility. If you are reading this, it means I am gone. And if your mother gave you these letters, it means she finally trusted you with the truth. Do not be angry with her. She loved you enough to become the villain in your story so that I would not destroy you like I destroyed everything else. She is your hero. She was always your hero. I never became the man I should have been. But she raised you to be everything I was not. Gentle, kind, strong in the right ways. Thank her for me. Thank her for saving my son. With all the love I never knew how to give Dad." Keanu lowered the letter. Patricia was sobbing now, her whole body shaking with the weight of decades finally being released. Keanu moved to sit beside her and took her hands in his, just as she had done so many times when he was a frightened child. "Mom," he said softly, "you asked if I could forgive you. But there is nothing to forgive. You did not keep me from my father. You kept my father's darkness from consuming me. You made an impossible choice, and you made it out of love. How could I ever be angry at you for loving me that much?" He reached for the thick envelope he had brought with him. "I wrote you something too," he said. "I spent 2 weeks trying to find the right words. I do not know if I succeeded, but I needed you to understand how I feel." He handed her the envelope. Patricia's hands shook as she opened it and pulled out several handwritten pages. Through her tears, she began to read her son's words. "Dear Mom," the letter began, "people ask me all the time why I am kind, why I give my seat to others on the subway, why I do not let fame change me, why I stop to talk to every person who approaches me. They think it is something I learned in Hollywood, but it is not. I learned kindness from watching you sacrifice everything for me. I learned strength from seeing you work 3 jobs without complaint. I learned love from the way you held me during thunderstorms and promised everything would be okay, even when you did not believe it yourself. You carried the weight of 1,000 secrets to give me a weightless childhood. You were my father and my mother, my protector and my provider, my soft place to land and my reason to reach for the stars. I do not know what kind of man I would have been if you had not made the choices you made. But I know this: every good thing I am because of you. With infinite love and endless respect, your son, Keanu." Patricia could not finish reading through her tears. She pulled her son into her arms and held him the way she had when he was small, when the world was scary and she was his only shelter. They stayed like that for a long time, mother and son, finally free from the secrets that had separated them. "I was so afraid the truth would make you hate me," Patricia whispered. "The truth did not make me hate you, Mom," Keanu replied. "It made me realize I never loved you enough. But I have the rest of your life to fix that." In the months that followed, Patricia's health stabilized. Keanu moved her into a beautiful home near his own. Every Sunday, without fail, they had breakfast together. They talked about everything: the past, the present, the future. They laughed at old memories and cried over shared losses. The walls that had stood between them for so long crumbled into dust, replaced by an understanding deeper than either of them had thought possible. One morning, Keanu arrived for their weekly breakfast and found his mother looking at 2 letters on her nightstand. One was the final letter from his father. The other was the letter Keanu had written her. "You kept them both," he said. Patricia smiled peacefully. "They are the same letter, really," she said. "Written by 2 different men who loved us in the only ways they knew how. Your father finally found peace. And because of your words, so did I." Keanu kissed his mother's forehead and headed for the door. But before he left, she called out to him. "Keanu," she said, "thank you for understanding that protecting you was never about keeping secrets. It was about giving you the freedom to become who you were meant to be." Keanu smiled, that gentle smile the whole world had come to love. "And who I was meant to be, Mom, was your son. That is all I ever needed to be." This story teaches us that love is not always simple. Sometimes the people who love us most make choices we do not understand. They carry burdens we cannot see. They sacrifice in silence so that we can live without fear. Patricia Taylor gave her son a childhood free from darkness by absorbing that darkness herself. She became the keeper of painful secrets so that Keanu could grow into a man of light. The lesson here is about forgiveness and understanding. It is about looking beyond our own hurt to see the hurt of those who love us. Keanu could have stayed angry. He could have let bitterness poison his heart. But instead, he chose compassion. He chose to see his mother not as someone who had kept him from his father, but as someone who had protected him from harm. This story also teaches us that kindness is not born from easy lives. It is forged in difficulty. It is shaped by pain. Keanu Reeves became one of the kindest souls in Hollywood, not despite his struggles, but because of them. He learned empathy from watching his mother cry at night. He learned humility from growing up with nothing. He learned respect from understanding the sacrifices others make for us. And finally, this story reminds us that it is never too late to heal. Patricia spent decades hiding the truth, believing it would destroy her son. But when she finally found the courage to share it, she discovered that truth does not destroy love. It deepens it. The relationship between mother and son became stronger after the secrets were revealed, not weaker. So if you carry burdens that weigh you down, remember that sharing them might set you free. If someone you love has hurt you with their choices, try to understand why they made them. And if you have the chance to choose between bitterness and compassion, choose compassion. Choose kindness. Choose love. Because in the end, that is what Keanu Reeves learned from his mother. And that is what his mother's heartbreaking truth finally revealed. Love, even imperfect love, is always worth fighting for.